Life is a journey, it's not a destination. Now, we're all familiar with these words and the ideas inherent in the statement, that life can be more meaningful when we recognize that our experiences along the way are just as important as our ability to arrive at the places we're striving to get to. Now, I've found in my own life that holding on too tightly to a destination mentality has actually interfered with me really understanding some of the important ways I can change as a person. I dare say that there are others of you in this room who have experienced the negative effects of holding on to a mindset that's so focused on what you want, you fail to consider what you might actually need or what it will cost you to get there. Now, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I've spent the last 8 years examining under what conditions people are most likely to change, grow, and progress in their lives. I've worked with kids, adolescents, and adults from a variety of different backgrounds and in numerous settings. And all of these experiences have led me to one important conclusion about what is necessary for any of us to make meaningful change in our lives. If life's about the journey, I'm going to need more gas stations. Now, in order for us to reach any destination, yet alone enjoy the trip along the way, we have to have sufficient resources to fuel the vehicles that we're using. Now, in a lot of ways, we're just like the cars we drive. We have a very powerful engine and a body and a framework to propel us. But like any vehicle, we'll never move forward unless we're able to keep gas in the tank. So if we were to really step into this metaphor today, I wonder how each of us might answer the following questions. How much gas do you have in your tank right now? How often does your gas light come on? And what kind of mileage do you get? Okay. Now, a few years ago, I had the painful realization that my answers to these questions uncovered that my life was the metaphorical equivalent to a 1973 Dodge Dart. Not great gas mileage, not overly reliable. Most days, this is what it looked like. Despite all my efforts, it seems as if I was making very little movement in my life towards the things I wanted most. I felt unhappy, unfulfilled, and by the end of most days, I was completely exhausted, both physically and mentally. Now, the frustrating part was my job was teaching people how to change, and I didn't seem to be able to do that in my own life. So I realized it was time for me to closely look at the things I was doing that were driving me through each of my days in order to understand how I could increase the mileage I was getting. And so this is what I found. Here's a day in my 1973 Dodge Dart life. This is, coming in from a weekend. It's a Monday morning, so I start off with a lot of fuel in my tank. And all of my days typically started the same way, and it was with an important question. The alarm goes off, and the question is, should I get up or should I sleep a little longer? This is followed by complex mental calculations of every single thing I need to do in the day and how those things will need to change based on this one decision. Before I even get out of bed, I've drained some energy in this process. And then I get into the shower and I hold a series of mini debates with myself. And I'm sure some of you do the same thing. This is what mine looks like. What should I wear today? Is that even clean? If I Febrezed it, would anybody know? And then it was things like, what should I eat for breakfast? Do I even have time for breakfast? I need to get to work. Most days I'd burn through energy, a little bit of energy before I even left the house. All I'd accomplished was actually getting dressed. Most days I hadn't even eaten, and I had a dip in my tank. And so then I was headed off to work, and this is a place that was going to really drain my tank. And this is everything from walking in and making the effort to smile at that person that you don't really like, but you work with them, so you smile at them anyway. Okay, turns out that takes energy. And this was followed by getting ready for meetings, paying attention in meetings, remembering all the things that I had to do. Okay, I was teaching classes, I was meeting with clients, and all of this took a big drop in my energy in the first part of my day. By the time I got to lunch, I felt this kind of drop in my tank. And yet, I would ask myself these midday kind of questions back to the debate. What should I eat for lunch? I wish I would have made lunch this morning, but I hit the snooze. Okay. And do I have time for lunch? I should work through lunch. Even though I needed more energy, these questions kept draining my tank. Now, eventually, I typically decided that I would get something to eat, run to a fast food place, or get something out of the vending machine, and I'd get a small little bump in my tank. And then it was back to work. And I realized usually midday, I have a lot of things to do, and I don't know if I have enough time or energy to do them. But I try to pump myself up, and I'd kind of get back into it. I'd get almost back to my office, and my boss would be like, "Can I just talk to you?" Okay, that's a drop in the tank. That's a definite drop in the tank, okay? That's a lot of smiling, and I'm here in an office agreeing to do a project that I don't really have time to do, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And yet I'm saying yes. I'd go back to my office, and I would start planning how am I going to get all my work done, plus what I just said that I would do. And I'm answering emails, and then I start working on projects. I continually am uninterrupted by different things that come up in the day. And by the time my day ends, this is what my tank was looking like. The gas light had come on. Now, you all know what these days are like. This is when you go home, you walk in the door, and somebody, well-intentioned, asks you what you want for dinner. And you either want to start crying or punch them. Okay? Now, we've all had these days. And even that question in and of itself seems to drop a little bit of energy in that tank. And I still had daylight left. I still had road to travel, but I didn't have enough gas to do anything. And this was like what my days were looking like. As I go through this example, you may notice that there are a lot of things that were related to decreases in my tank, and that energy depleting tasks seem to dominate my day. Now, in order for us to really understand what kind of things are responsible for decreasing our energy reserve, we have to take a close look at the engine that drives us. So if we were to pop the hood and take a look inside, this is what we find. Now, within this area of the brain, known as the prefrontal cortex, some of the most important aspects of our operating system reside. Now, these are known as executive functions. Now, neuropsychologists have been studying executive functions for years, and we now understand that these are the mechanisms that are responsible for us remembering things, and they determine how effectively we use our knowledge of the past to plan and organize for current and future tasks. They're what help us focus our attention or switch concentration to something else. They allow us to initiate a behavior or to inhibit it, and they're responsible for regulating our emotions. Now, the reason why we want to either start crying or punch somebody when they ask us a simple question about dinner is a result of relying on executive functioning processes that have been exhausted during the day. Now, as our energy levels drop, our executive functions basically begin running on fumes, and we start making decisions that are based on short-term needs rather than our long-term goals. Now, here's the irony of the situation, and don't let it be lost on you. Most of us fail to realize that we have run out of gas in our tank. And instead, we beat ourselves up that we don't have enough willpower to do the things we want, like finish a project at work, or go for a jog, or stop at the grocery store so we can make dinner at home instead of eating out again. Now, whatever it is that we want to change in our lives, we act as if willpower were some inherent ability that we could summon at any time, when the truth is, willpower is nothing more than our daily energy, and it's a resource that we burn through as we make decisions in our day. Now, unless we consider ways that we can create a sustainable energy source to fuel this vehicle, it will become difficult, if not impossible, for any of us to have enough willpower to make any changes in our life. So for me personally, I realized it was time that I needed to update my model to or my vehicle to an energy efficient model. Now, in order to do this, I was going to have to reduce the amount of decisions I was making each day, and I was going to have to rely on other parts of my brain to help move me forward. Now, behind our prefrontal cortex is a more primitive part of our brain, and this allows us to operate on autopilot. Now, these areas in the back of the brain are responsible for recording what are known as procedural memories. These are the things that allow us to act in automatic and habitual ways, and the cool thing is they don't require executive functions. So when we do something again and again and again, our posterior brain creates a procedural memory, and we're able to take action without actually having to make decisions. So I took all of this knowledge, and I decided I needed to trade in this little gas guzzler for a hybrid mind. That's exactly what I did. So I want to take you through some of the changes that I have made in my life, and this is kind of how I'm trying to be a little more energy efficient. 1973 Dodge Dart. Okay, hybrid mind. Now, if any of you have ever bought a hybrid car, you know these things are awesome, they go forever, but they're kind of expensive. And making this change in my life meant that I was going to it was going to cost me some things. It was going to cost me the idea of getting extra sleep in the morning, and it was also going to cost me having to let go of everything that was so important to me about work. And this is how I did it. So in the morning when my alarm goes off now, is there any questions in my mind? No, I have to get up, and so I get up. And I jump in the shower, and I get out of the shower, and I put on my clothes that I laid out the night before. Now, it turns out you have to wear clothes every single day, and if you don't think you do, please talk to the person next to you, okay? You do. Now, this is a decision that I don't need to make. I have to do it every single day, so I cut it out. And then I walk into the kitchen, and my cereal is already setting out with my bowl. And I pour it, and I have breakfast. I don't make a decision if I'm going to have breakfast or what I'm going to have. I just have breakfast every day. Okay, I don't make that decision anymore. It's a routine. And I've had to let go of worrying about work and getting there at a certain time. And when I get to work, I have a full tank. Now, I still have to see that person I don't really like, but I smile at anyway, and that costs me energy. Some people from work are here. It's not you. Okay. Okay. Now, other things also drain energy, the same things. I have meetings, I meet with clients, and all those things drain my energy. But research has shown that if you just take 3 minutes and do some deep breathing after concentrating on a task for about 60 minutes, that actually can give you a bump in your tank. So rather than thinking I have to work all morning long, I always take a break mid-morning, and I make sure that I get that little bump in my tank. And then when it comes to lunch, do I make a decision? No, I have to eat lunch every single day, and so I made lunch the night before and I brought it, and I always stop, and I don't work during lunch because I know that I need that little increase in my tank. And so when I go back to work, when my boss pulls me aside, okay, it still drops my tank, but I have a little bit more energy. And I also know that if you have like a snack during the day that's kind of high in glucose, that it can actually bump your tank. So after I get done with my boss, I make sure to grab like a nice refreshing chocolate milk. It's what I like, don't judge me. And it gives me a bump in my tank. And then I'm ready for the rest of my day, which is filled with, again, meetings, seeing clients, answering emails, dealing with unexpected emergencies, and I get that drop. Now, when I get home and somebody asks, what are we having for dinner? I already know the answer to that question because now on Saturday morning, I create a menu of everything that I'm going to eat that week, and then I go to the grocery store because I know I have to eat like dinner every single day. You should. And so I already know what I'm going to eat, and so I get home and I make dinner and I get a bump in my tank. And I also know that it's not good for you to be working all the time. We actually have to have periods of time where we're resting, not just sleeping, but actually resting. And so I take time every day. It's called my guilt-free time, and I just do something I enjoy. So I turn on the TV and watch some Dance Moms, okay? Judge me if you want, but it fills up my tank. And here's the cool thing. Now, when I want to make a change in my life, I've actually got the energy to do it. Okay? So if I want to start like a healthy new behavior, like exercising, I have the energy that my executive functions can help me initiate that behavior. If I want to stop engaging in a self-destructive habit, like overeating when I don't need to, or using substances like to feel better, I can stop myself from doing that. Or if I just want to be like present with my family, I have the gas that my executive functions can concentrate and do those very things. So I make whatever change I want, and then before bed, what do? I put out my clothes, okay? And then I get my cereal and my bowl, and I make my lunch, and that's what my days look like. Now, it seems simple, but it wasn't easy to do. I had to let go of some of the things that I thought were most important in my life. I had to let go of what other people thought of me. I had to let go of responsibilities that I thought were essential for me moving forward in my life and reaching my goals, but in fact, they were just exhausting my tank and holding me back. And I think that's actually the point of all of this for me, and maybe for all of us. I think all of us are having these experiences, and we're realizing that what this journey is about is figuring out when to hold on and when to let go. And I'd like to leave you with a story that I think illustrates this point. My best friend's father, he served in the Vietnam War, and he was completing a mission with a group of soldiers, and they were waiting to be airlifted out of an area. And their intelligence had told them that there wasn't enemies in the area, so they thought this would be something that was going to be safe and quick to do. And the helicopter came down, and they climbed aboard, and as they took off, they hadn't got more than 30 feet above the ground, there started to be an attack on the helicopter, and it was actually hit, and the front of the helicopter started on fire. And in this moment, he's kind of panicked, and he realizes he's going to have to jump. He jumps out of the helicopter, and he lands in this field below. It's a rice paddy field, and it's flood season, so he lands in this water, and he looks up, and he sees the helicopter come crashing down on top of him. And it happens just to land on him right where the door is open, so it doesn't crush him completely. And he goes to get out, and he realizes that his arm is pinned, and he's frantically trying to free himself. And he has a friend outside who's trying to hold off the enemy with fire, and he's yelling, leave me, because he knows he's going to die. He's stuck. And in this frantic kind of trying to free himself, he has a moment where he looks down and he realizes he's holding onto his gun. And his arm's not actually stuck, but his gun is. And he's able to let go. And if you think about this, if you're in wartime and you're a soldier, what's the one thing you want to hold on to make sure you're safe and that you'll make it through? Your gun. And we all have moments like this in our life where we need to take a step back and we need to recognize and examine, what are we holding on to? And if that thing that we're holding on to now has become the thing that is holding us back from moving on, if so, I encourage you to let go. Thank you.